Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bombay Orthopedic Society's Journal Club. Today, I'm going to review an original article. My name is Dr. Harshad Argekar, and you all know me. The article which I'm going to review today is the UK fixed DT randomized clinical trial. Now, this trial was published in the Journal of American Medical Association in 2017 and is an original investigation. The aim of this study was to define as to which modality of fixation used for fractures of the distal end of the tibia gave the least disability and least complication. We all know that for distal tibias, we use two modalities of treatment. Number one is the intramedullary nail, and number two modality is the locking compression plate. These are, as of today, the two standard methods used to treat the distal end of the tibia. This study is a prospective randomized study which determined as to which of these two treatments gave the least possible disability to the patient. We are all aware that there are certain limitations or there are certain problems with the distal end of the tibia. We have a limited soft tissue cover. We have very poor vascularity of the distal end of tibia, and it is very close to the ankle joint. What this means is any movement of the ankle is immediately reflected as stresses on a fracture which is close to the metaphyseal area. These stresses are not as much in the diaphyseal area when the ankle moves, but in the perimetaphyseal area or the juxta-articular area, any movement of the adjacent joint is immediately reflected in the fracture site, and the implant which you use has to be strong enough to neutralize these joint forces. Nails have their own problems. Number one, we are putting a narrow nail in an area of the metaphysis which widens out. So stability is always doubtful. Because you have a small segment of the distal bone available, your hold in the distal end of tibia may not be as expected or as good as what is there in the diaphyseal area. Because of this widened distal end of tibia, there can be a problem with malalignment. You can get excessive varus or excessive valgus if your nail is not properly centralized. If the hold of the screw is improper, or if there is a lot of comminution and weight bearing is made early, the implant problems can occur. The screw can break or it can back out also. In rare instances, you have had situations where the screws have broken and the nail has penetrated into a joint. So that is a problem associated with an intramedullary rod. Plates are also not without their own problems. As you all know, in order to put a plate, you require to take an incision. So soft tissue dissection obviously has to be more than when you are using a nail as an implant. Because you are exposing soft tissue, there is a theoretical higher chance of infection when plating distal end of tibia. Because of poor vascularity, possibility of wound complications, and a rare possibility of damage to the surrounding structures either while drilling or putting the plate or while doing the exposure itself. So how was this study designed? This study is not a unicenter design, a unicenter study. It is a multi-centric design because the investigators wanted huge number of cases to study. It is not possible for one center to have that higher numbers in the limited amount of time available. So they used a multicentric approach. This study was prospective. It was not a review or retrospective study. So any prospective study which is randomized and which is pre-designed will give better result than a retrospective study. The study design was quite good. So they had this study spread over 28 centers all over the United Kingdom. They included young adults, patients who are above the age of 16 years, where nailing will not be contraindicated. Any patients below 16 years were excluded from the study. They defined the distal end of tibia as a standard area which is 2 molar square in length. Now, what is 1 molar square? If you take the breadth of the distal end of the tibia and you make a square of it, this is called 1 molar square. The advantage of using the molar square is that you don't have to use centimeters. Each of these will be patient specific. So any patient having a broader tibia will have a wider molar square. So you take 2 molar square and then define the distal end of the tibia. They used only extra-articular fractures. They did not use intra-articular fracture in the study. The patient had to have a good access entry point. Whether he was nailed or he was plated, his entry point has to be there. That means the proximal end of the tibia should not have had previous surgeries, or if they had a TKR or a total knee replacement, patient was excluded. If there was any deformity on the tibia which precluded use of a nail, patient was not included in the study. Whether he was to be plated or nailed, it didn't matter. If the patient had a TKR, if he had a deformity, he was excluded from the study. He was just not included in the randomization also. If there are anesthesia contraindications, or if patient refused to give consent for various reasons, then again he was excluded. In order to remove the bias, the patients were randomized before the surgery by a web-based software. Blinding was done while registering the patient itself. The patient was not aware of what treatment he was to be given. Neither was the surgeon aware as to which patient he is going to get next. So only when the patient reached a particular center, then the envelope was opened and the nature of surgery was decided just pre-operative. Also, the assessment at the end of the study was done by independent researchers and not by the treating team. So that bias was also eliminated. So this study has a lot of mechanism to eliminate personal bias as well as pre-operative X-ray based bias. All patients were treated by a standard protocol. They were given thromboprophylaxis and similar type of antibiotic prophylaxis. Standard intramedullary nail was used. The technique was standardized. However, the locking configuration, the methods of reduction, the nail size and the nail type was left to the individual treating surgeon. Similarly, for the plating, it was decided that a locking plate is to be used from the distal end under the skin and coming proximal to the fracture. However, whether it was done open, whether it was done mini open, whether it was done through stab incisions, what are the types of reduction or what are the methods to get the reduction, the number of screws at each end of the plate was left to the surgeon's discretion, because these things cannot be standardized. Every patient, every fracture pattern will require something slightly different from the other one. So these methods or this exact numbers cannot be predetermined. So that was left at the individual treating surgeon's discretion. Post-operative protocol for both groups was exactly the same. Both were encouraged early weight bearing as soon as possible. Now the patients were reviewed at the end of 6 weeks by various questionnaires and comprehensively at the end of 3 months, 6 months and 12 months. X-rays were taken at 6 weeks and at 12 months for sure, but if the surgeon felt it necessary, some X-rays were taken a little earlier. The primary outcome measure was decided using what is called as a standardized disability rating index. This was done at 6 months and then at 12 months. In a disability rating index, if there is an 8-point difference between the ratings, then it is considered significant. So in the DRI, or the Disability Rating Index, 12 items of function related to the lower limb and of daily activities are scored by the patient, where he can give a score of 0 where the patient has no disability to a score of 100 where the patient has complete disability. Other indices were also used. One was the European Quality of Life Health Related Index, and the other one was the Olyred Moliander Ankle Score. These are again standardized scores and standardized evaluation methods used for ankle as well as quality of life indices. The Disability Rating Index used these following 12 parameters, and as I said, patients rated it from 0 having no disability to 100 having complete disability, and then a total score was taken and a mean was taken out. So in this study, 530 patients were screened and deemed eligible to enter into the study. So that's a huge number, of which almost 216 or 216 patients who were eligible were not given randomization for various reasons. And the most common reason was that the surgeon at who the patient was going to go to somehow preferred one method of treatment over the other. He preferred, and most of the time the preferred method of treatment was nailing. So this was a little bias by the treating surgeon, but this bias was eliminated by not including the patients in the study at all. So 216 patients were eliminated because surgeon bias preferred a medullary nail as compared to a plate, but they were not studied. Of the remaining 321, there was equal distribution into both these methods of treatment, nailing as well as plating. We had about 160 and 161 patients in each group. And at the end of 6 months, we had equivalent evaluations of 143 patients in the nailing group and 141 patients in the plating group. So the distribution in both groups was almost equal, and here you see that the randomization has produced equal numbers in both groups, so the study would be a little more relevant. What was recorded as complications was local complication in the form of infection, neurological injury, thromboembolism, and malunion. Of course, other systemic complications were also recorded, and unrelated adverse events related to anesthesia were also taken as a part of the recording. But this was not the primary aim. The primary aim was to study what are the adverse effects and what are the least possible disability with either of these methods. And the entire summary is in these three graphs, where the Disability Rating Index score, the European Quality of Life, and the OMAS, the ankle score, is taken. And from the graph it can be very clear the light line is for the plate and the dark line is for the nail. In all these you can see that the nail scores slightly better than the plate in the initial phases. In the first 6 months, the recovery or the disability with the nail is slightly lesser than that with a plate, and the quality of life with the nail is slightly better than that of the plate at the first 6 months. However, if you see this at the end of 12 months, they exactly match each other. So what it basically means is that in the early phase of recovery, the nailing patients do a little better, but at the end of 12 months, both of them behave exactly the same. They have similar type of disability and they have a similar quality of life. So the infections, if you see the number wise, the infections were slightly more in the plating group. The neurological injury was slightly more in the medullary nail group, and patients who require additional surgery, either in the form of removal of implant or bone grafting or revision surgery, was slightly higher in the plating group. But if you look at the overall numbers and considering the large numbers of the patients in this study, these differences were not statistically significant. So if you look at it from a statistical point of view, whether you use a nail or a plate, the rate of infection, the neurological injury, and the need for additional surgery in this study was exactly the same. So what are the conclusions of these studies? The conclusions, actually, it may seem a little odd that both the methods are same, but it proves a point. It proves that whether you use a nail or whether you use a plate, neither of them are more superior to the other. Or both of them are equally good if you look at it positively, or both of them have equally bad if you look at it negatively. The only thing which did come out in the study is that the nailing group had lesser disability at 3 months as compared to the plating group, but eventually the plating group and the nailing group landed up with similar type of good or bad result. This study, when compared to other randomized study which previously showed that the plating had a higher rate of complication, but you have to remember that these studies were in plates in the pre-locking era. So the plates which were used in the previous study were not locking plates. With the advent of locking plates, the chances of malunion, skin complication, and wound infection has lessened. So over a period of time, nails and plates have matched with each other as far as results and complications are concerned. Certain criticisms have been given, and these are self-criticisms. These criticisms are in the paper itself. They said that out of the entire 530 patients, 200 patients were not included because of a particular bias by the surgeon who preferred nailing as compared to plating. Some of these patients were excluded because they chose one method of treatment, and some of the patients did not give consent or were not willing to fill the questionnaire, and therefore they were excluded. A large majority of these 200 patients were excluded for logistical reasons, where in that particular center, the people doing the evaluation or the people doing the study were not available at that point. So it's a logistical and a manpower reason by which a majority of the patients were not included. Also, in the treatment part, suppose a patient has been randomized to a nail and some patients have been randomized to a plate. At the last minute, the surgeon changed from a nail to a plate or a plate to a nail depending on his clinical judgment or acumen. This kind of crossover was expected, and it was within the expected parameters of less than 9%. So it was not considered very significant crossover, and almost equal crossover occurred from both groups. So they kind of neutralized each other. The good part about this study was at the end of it, there were 280 patients available, which is a huge number. There was very good randomization and unbiased distribution. This was a prospective study, so there was no question of any bias, and there was no question of collecting data in a wrong manner. And this paper did have very strong conclusions because of its nature of study.